Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Good morning, and hope that you set your clocks forward this morning, or you're late to church or wherever you needed to go. A lot of crazy stuff going on still. You know, way back when Trump took office, I made a statement that it was the most likely choice that I saw at that time for the United States going to war with someone would be Iran. And I got kind of chewed up in the comment section back then. But yeah, now it's kind of looking that way. The United States has threatened military force intervention if Iran does not come to the table and talk about nuclear weapons. And Iran says that they're not doing it. So they have no interest in talking to the United States, and there's no negotiations. It's not on the table. And then this morning it was announced that Russia, China, and Iran are doing joint naval operation training together. So this is, I know in one sense, and it could be true, that it looks like that. Wait a minute, we've been building a renewed relationship or a new relationship with Russia, and then now they're going to stab us in the back and do this military joint operation with Iran. And folks, this is how the game's played. This is what I've been telling you for a long time. And what we perceive, and when I say we, I mean just the common people, us commoners, what we perceive as alliances and enemies and friends and stuff is not the same way that the top tier elites see it. But yeah, so there's that going on with Iran. It looks like that there's possible interventions going to start happening there. Same thing in Gaza. That's reported that the last bit of negotiations there with the Hamas has kind of fallen through. And so it's very possible to start seeing increased actions there. Syria is completely falling apart. It's awful there. The news is not reporting most of it, and they are massacring Christians there. Most people don't know this, but Syria in the past has actually they've actually allowed one of the few Muslim countries that has had no problem with Christians living there, and they've had quite the population. And well, now that's not happening because it is a bloodbath, and it's tragic and it's horrible, and no one's doing anything about it. And even though I haven't figured it out, I still think that there's something significant to the fact that Syria, that it later on down the road, that this will play into what happens in the Middle East. Also, the United States saying that they're not going to be purchasing oil from Iran, that they're going to, potentially try to cripple Iran with sanctions and stuff because they won't come to the table and talk to them. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the Middle East right now. The thing is it's constantly shifting. It goes from one topic to the next topic. You can't keep up on what's going on. Yesterday, all this talk of making Canada the 51st state, and I guess Justin Trudeau now is no longer the prime minister, but all this talk about making the 51st state. Yesterday, the president stated that he's looking at and potentially willing to just rip it up and throw away. I mean, those are my words. The treaty between us and Canada established the boundary lines for the two countries, and he's stating that, it doesn't look like it's a legitimate treaty, and that we may take part of the Great Lakes area, that, the side that's the Canadian side, that we may just take a bunch of that land. That we may just decide that that's America's land, and we'll just take that. So I guess if we can't take all of Canada, we're just going to take it a piece at a time. It makes your head spin with what the stuff's going on. We've got one of the most liberal and one of the more conservative congresswomen, both in Congress, teaming up together. AOC and this Congresswoman Luna. Okay, that's interesting. There's so many things happening Europe is still, they're all over the place of whether or not they're going to be supporting Ukraine, whether or not they're going to be increasing their military spending. The president wants to put a bunch of troops, about 35,000 troops on the easternmost front of Europe. Again, it makes your head spin because things are happening so rapidly. And I think that that's significant. I think it is, especially when you look at the other stuff that's kind of happening in the background that we know is happening. We know is going on. This is like the economy, stuff with the economy. Gold just keeps going up. The stock market's more and more unstable. Cryptocurrency's more and more unstable. And most all the indicators show that a big recession is just around the corner, and potentially a stock market collapse of some level, and a bank bail-in. You know, all of these things are right there on the cusp. Most people aren't talking about that because they're talking about all this other crazy stuff. The same thing with all these diseases flying around. Measles and H5N1 and new ones coming out of Wuhan that's being reported, and the biggest flu season that we've had in decades. But yet not a lot of people are talking about that, and they won't until it gets to a level that it's quite serious. So how much of all this stuff that's going on is a distraction? I don't know. I think a lot of it is. I think a lot of it is just to keep everyone very busy. There's also the chance that this administration hasn't quite figured things out yet. I know that is very, very contrary to what the majority of conservative Republicans believe. They believe that there's this master MAGA plan to do all this. And that, I'd say that that's the most likely scenario, but I think there's still good odds that no one really quite knows what's going on. And it's just kind of all over the board. You've got the new FBI director that everyone was just, foaming at the mouth to get this guy confirmed, because it was going to be a whirlwind of change, and he got into office and nothing's happened. Same thing with the Attorney General. The Epstein and the 9/11 files and the JFK files, not seeing those, and probably won't see them. Now it's come out in the news. Big shocker. Better sit back in your seat. A big shocker. It's come out in the news that it looks like that Epstein probably was a government intel asset. I know that's shocking to you. The whole auditing Fort Knox, remember there was days of that talk and everyone was just getting all riled up, and now no one's saying anything. And there was all this talk about sending $5,000 rebate checks out to the American people. Not talking about that. They've been talked about, shutting down the Department of Education. Well, now they've admitted that's not going to happen. And we're going to end the IRS. Probably won't happen either. A lot of the people that's been fired are being brought back on. It's all over the board. And I know when I say things like this, some of you are like, oh, what, is he turned into some kind of liberal? Yeah, he must be. I bet you'd rather have had Kamala Harris in as the president. That's not what that means. I believe that we have the president that we were meant to have. But I also believe that things are purposely in a chaotic state. And that's usually not a good sign, folks. The stuff that's happening, some of it doesn't make sense. Some of it it's all over the board. It depends on what day of the week that you check the news of what's actually going on. It seems as people just don't know what's going on within their own administration. It's all over the place. And we're getting closer and closer to war. We're getting closer and closer to some level of collapse. I've said this before the president took office, and then I believe just shortly after, or right around the inauguration time, he made a couple of statements. They never got much news, airtime, but he made a couple of statements indicating that there would probably be a lot of hard times through his presidency, that it would be, that there could be economic problems, collapse, all this kind of stuff, stock market, things like that, recession and more. And I said that myself, that this administration is going to feel the true hardships and the things that are happening. While they could end up making things better, I think the likely chances is they're going to make things harder. And people really need to wake up to that. Really need to get serious about getting things ready. You know, this war, you know, potential war in Europe, a potential war between us and Iran, us getting more directly involved in Hamas and Gaza. The president has strongly indicated that. I mean, we're talking a lot. We're talking a lot that's going on, and a lot of these promises ended up not quite being what they are. And I think that's part of why we're seeing all this crazy stuff, you know, potential wars and stuff, so that the other stuff can kind of slip through the door. You know, the talk of taking over Panama, and then oh well, we've made some success there. We took it out of the hands of China, and we let BlackRock take over. So now BlackRock runs a lot of Panama. So there's, see what I mean? There's just some odd things going on, and more than odd. And I think wars are on the horizon. The social fabric here in the United States is kind of breaking down. So the possibility of a civil war of some sort here, or just increased violent actions, increased instability here in the United States, I think is becoming more and more of a reality. These are things that we really need to be paying attention to and getting ready for. I made a video the other day of just strictly stocking up. If you look at the trade wars, you look at the economy and stuff, the prices are going to go up. They've been going up. They're going to continue to go up. And the availability of goods may start really being restricted, at least in some areas, due to all of the trade wars and the tariffs and stuff like that. There just may not be stuff available. And so I strongly suggest you start prepping that stuff up, getting ready, making sure that you're ready for things as they get really hard. Keep your head on a swivel, because we're getting more and more into this time that random acts of violence that we've been seeing for a long time is probably going to get worse. So get ready for that. Above all, get your heart and soul ready, because this is, in the end, I believe, all spiritual warfare. And so we need to be prepared for that. You need to be getting your houses in order. I say that every day, but it's something you need to, because the horizon doesn't look good. It doesn't mean that Trump's a bad guy. It doesn't mean that he's the wrong guy. It just the horizon doesn't look good, and you need to get ready for that. Get yourselves prepared mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.